Before we get into the rest of the video, I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of this bit right here, the daily deep sight weapons. Bungie does this towards the end of a year worth of seasons, where if there's anything left over from any prior seasons, you can purchase one daily red border every day at reset. That makes it a lot easier to go back and clean up anything you've missed, or just clean up any seasons that you double back to, any seasons you've missed completely. It makes it easier to go back and claim red borders while it is the easiest to claim them. Keep track of this because you will lose it once this season ends. If this sounds a little weird wherever it gets put in the video, I apologize. This is me afterwards recording. Just wanted to double check and make sure people knew. Of course, there is a new Archie quest, and Bungie, of course, mentioned that these are week by week. If you missed him in the tower or you missed him in the Cosmodrome, unfortunately, you missed out on that specific one. But, however, there is a current new one this week. I will, of course, follow the quest and give you a guide in case you just want to roam through it or having trouble with it in its own respective video. But another thing to mention, currently active is actually a Bungie free trial. If you have any friends that are just getting into Destiny or have been out of Destiny and are getting back into it but don't want to spend a lot of money on the expansion just because they feel like they missed out, guess what? Every expansion that is still currently available for a full campaign, that is, of course, the Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, and Witch Queen campaigns, are free to literally anyone. If anyone wants to get into Destiny and play those 3 years of Destiny, get everything for it, subclasses, exotics, story content, armor, anything, they actually have access to it. Of course, that does not include Lightfall, the most recent expansion. Shouldn't be surprising just because that's corporate logic. But at the same time, if you had anyone that is just getting back into Destiny for any reason, there is 3 free years of Destiny that they can play until Final Shape launches. So be sure to keep track of that. All right. Hello again. I know I just gave a brief message, but this is the actual hello start to the video because I just keep forgetting about those boosters when they come around. So, getting into the week, I'm still going to try to keep this as streamlined as possible, just straight up. I will, of course, be darting back and forth. There is some new stuff to talk about. There is quite a lot that's actually going on. So if this video does run a little bit long, I apologize. If you stick with it, I thank you, of course. But getting into things, of course, there was a patch that was today. Straight up, there wasn't many changes that, aside from the 3 new Crucible maps, a new playlist in it. They talked about fixes to Pantheon, as well as Onslaught, and that in terms of competitive, there is changes to how special ammo works, something about only getting special ammo drops on primary kills. I'm assuming changes to make special ammo less oppressive, as always. But then as well, speaking of Pantheon, it is currently updated so that with Pantheon, you do have another mode, which of course, as we expected this throughout the week, but just to keep you updated, Atrax was the end last week, now it is Oryx Exalted, which of course, at this level as well, there is a new modifier, in addition, where currently it is the higher power level, so you'll be set to 10 below. It still won't be a noticeable difference, but for some it might be. But there is also a current modifier called Shot Caller, landing multiple precision hits with a primary ammo weapon, empowers special and heavy ammo weapons, reduces incoming damage while active. So it's, from the sound of it, it's literally just permanent bait and switch. So maybe you can take advantage of that. Who knows? Maybe the buff isn't exactly there. But as usual, again, another week of Pantheon, which means more emblems to go for and more grinding. Of course, more of the live stream from the Bungie side because of their Pantheon races. But speaking of which, there is currently an active Twitch drop available if you tune into various Pantheon creators. As always, you need to watch for an hour, depending on how long they're streaming, but hopefully they'll, keep it in mind for everything else. Now, on terms of the broad world, there is double Crucible ranks currently active, which is ironic considering the last Iron Banner has just left us, but I guess it is a way of incentivizing people to play the new maps as well. And like I mentioned before, there is a new playlist for said maps if you wish to go into just exclusively the new maps. It is right here at 3v3 territory. Like they have mentioned before, though, it is current because of the way the maps are set up. It is focused on comp, so I wouldn't expect them to show up a lot in 6v6. Of course, yes, they do happen, but I'd expect them more regularly in the comp playlist. Speaking of which, just while we're here on Crucible, we still have Hardware Supremacy, which is firearms only, Team Scorch, which is Scorch cannons only, but then regular competitive, regular control, and regular rumble for everything else. Now, I skipped around a little bit, but currently on the active Nightfall, it is the Moon Heist Battleground, which the opening is a bit rough. There's lots of things to chew through, but a good fight to take them out. That middle room, which I would suppose would be like the second hardest part, or the hardest part of the whole thing, I would recommend Stasis, Warlocks with Stasis turrets and the whole thing. But of course, the end is good as long as you manage to juggle sniper fire and banking those arc charges as always with the Heist Battleground. And currently the weapon is active is Prey Osteonyx 4, which is a really good bow. I don't know if anyone has seen my Hierarchy of Needs setup where it's just ignitions, ignitions, ignitions. Anytime I am not using Hierarchy of Needs, especially this season with the modifiers, I am using that to fill in the spot. So I would definitely recommend spending some ciphers on this one if you have them active. If you already have a good god roll, of course, maybe get a few for your friends. But aside from that, it's a hard section to deal with for a good weapon. I would, of course, recommend a little bit of farming. Now, getting into a lot of our rotators, just straight up, the exotic mission right now is Vox Obscura, which does give you the Dead Messenger and its associate perks if you want to rerun it for, you know, that, although it's not a reason I would suggest. The reason I would suggest is all of the weapons from Season of the Risen. All of the weapons from Season of the Risen are currently available to get a few red borders in addition to, you know, whatever you can get out of it. Some are better than others, but I would definitely recommend just clearing the chestboard because sometime soon it might be harder to earn those weapons again. In terms of the farming raid, it is a good one because it is the Deep Stone Crypt, which means, as always, all challenges are active, which means you can farm them infinitely. If you want to run Atrax over and over again just to try and get some of the weapons from there, if you want to farm out Taniks over and over again so you can get Eyes of Tomorrow, it is an option. Now, there isn't a Master Mode available because this raid didn't come with a Master Mode, but it makes it a little bit easier in terms of farming, just getting through everything. As well, though, with the dungeon, another not master thing available, it is the Pit of Heresy, which there is some good armor you could roll, there is one or two handy weapons, but there isn't exactly anything iconic from that dungeon. Maybe one or two things, but not a lot. So, if there was a week to go for a dungeon farm, this one is literally only really usable for the Pinnacle. Running over to Dares of Eternity, while I have it in my brain, it is Fallen, Hive, and Zydron for the final boss. Of course, that is on Legend Mode specifically, in case you are still out there farming that. But aside from that, just going to quick fire for all the raid challenge modes, going from bottom to top. So, for Last Wish, we have the Summoning Ritual Challenge. For Garden of Salvation, we have 0 to 100, which is the final boss encounter, essentially. And like I said, for Deep Stone Crypt, all challenges are active, so you don't have to choose just one. With Vault of Glass, it is the Oracle's Challenge. Basically, one person cannot break the same Oracle in any location. For Vow of the Disciple, it is Looping Catalyst, which is Rolk Challenge. Basically, do not lose the Leeching buff, and you will do just fine. King's Fall, Grass is Always Greener, which I believe is rotating all the way back around to the start of War Priest, or Totems Challenge, excuse me. And then with Root of Nightmares, it is Cosmic Equilibrium out of the third encounter. And for Crota, it is Precarious Balance, which is the Bridge Encounter. Of course, there is always Master Mode to run if you wish to find the Adepts from any of the Crota weapons. Like I said, any, because they do not drop specific. They drop whatever you don't have and then drop everything. And from that point, that is pretty much everything happening, darting throughout the world that is important to keep track of. Like I said, I will try to keep everything streamlined a little bit easier for everyone getting the important information first without lots of random other things. Now, speaking of important information, what is available at Eververse this week? Right off the front page, Whispered Sheen, a shader from Season of the Plunder, which it looks a little bit weird on the average piece of armor, but I would say use this on the gear from the relevant season, especially the weaponry. It will shine a little bit better there. Then as well, we have Coppertone Patina from Season 10. It doesn't look that bad. It's like, I'm looking at my Guardian, it doesn't look half bad either. I'd say it actually looks pretty cool. The problem is, it just doesn't really fit much individually unless you're wearing the whole thing, and then you have to make a lot of effort making the whole thing match. Then you also have the ossified entrance, which is basically the scorpion tail spawn in. I know I've seen a buddy of mine use it endlessly. Ironically enough, I do not, but then again, I like my dragon wings. Then for a ornament, we have Alone to be Joined. This is for Drang Baroque or Drang Opulent, however they put it in this game. But it is an ornament for everyone's favorite Solar Pistol if they want to use it for this one. Although, arguably, it might actually lessen it compared to regular Drang nowadays. Then we also have the Dance Off emote from Season 19, which I'm going to just run it a few times to see if I can get it. But this one was one that allegedly teased another subclass because the chair once popped up. Aha, there it goes. It usually rotates subclass colors, and that one was red. So there was a lot of people thinking whatever the red subclass that was talking about is in the game, but it might just be a prismatic placeholder now. Getting into the main store, we have Amethyst Veil, which is a personal favorite of mine for making Void setups. As you can look, I'm already on my Void Titan, and it does look pretty dang good. I like it a little bit more for the Hunter, though, personally. Then the Bruised Blush, which, yeah, it's a lot of bruised colors, a blue, a purple, but at the same time, again, this one's a hard one to use because you got to find something that really matches, because, you know, there's a lot of just black here. Then Jungle Viper, another one similar to so. It has lots of cool colors and lots of cool combinations. Problem is, really, it's just hard to put this on something that it completely matches and completely works with. Otherwise, it just hurts your eyes. And we have Calyptra? That word, I'm not sure for the exact saying, but it doesn't look half bad. It's a lot of desert tone, orange, dark browns and everything. Could see it working if you want to make a Tusken Raider look for your Guardian, but you know. Then for the big ticket items, we have the Let Me Investigate, which is, I guess, a Sherlock Holmes or emote, which is lots of this that just suddenly ends when you decide to throw away the magnifying glass. And for the Black Armory armor sets, back from the Eververse store, if you wanted the boots for any of the 3 characters, Hunter or Warlock, Titan as well, on your respective characters, you can have access to all of the leg ornaments. If you want to pick it up for Bright Dust and either lessen the silver cost of the whole thing, or just steadily put it together for Bright Dust alone. And we also have the Photoelectric Shell, which is a part of that like laser cutter 3D set for this season, actually. This is something that came out this season. Pretty nifty looking ghost shell. It almost looks like a Tron disc Saint 14 ghost shell, if I'm honest. It does look pretty cool, but again, I like my ghost the way it is. Then we have Wanderer's Wings, which is from Season 15, pretty out there ago. Season of Lost, shockingly enough, pre-Witch Queen. Solid enough look for a ship. Again, I have my personal favorites. This isn't uprooting it, but if anyone likes the idea of just a straight-up ship that looks speedy and explorative, there you go. Very No Man's Sky. We also have Externalization from Season 19, the same season as that other thing that I mentioned before that was from this season. I already forgot what it was, which is, I think, a part of... I think this was a Rasputin or a Solar set. This was a part of the Eververse store at the time. It had a theme, and there was, of course, the Ghost Shell and ship for it. Then probably the big ticket item, Essentialism, which is the Root of Nightmares ornament for Thorn, which this was, of course, hitting in a really good way when Thorn got its catalyst, and it was fresh off of Dragon's Breath with a sort of Root of Nightmares look. I know it's Riven themed, but it looked very Root of Nightmares, honestly, off the bat. But yeah, Root of Nightmares Thorn. It looks very cool. Thorn has a lot of great ornaments. At this point, I'm struggling which one I want to use with the original, the Taken King one, and everything else. The thing I'm not struggling to use is the Ghost Projection, because while this one is very Cade relevant, at the same time, it is literally just Neon Ramen Projection. Trying to keep up with everything, so right off the bat, Whispering Slab, lightweight frame kinetic bow, something I've talked about a lot. It's nifty, but it's quite old, so would recommend getting a literal god roll before using it. Cartesian Coordinate, something that can actually still stand nowadays. A solar rapid-fire fusion rifle. If you can get something like Vorpal or even auto-loading Vorpal to be better, this would be the god roll, but I wouldn't recommend what's in the store now. Austringer, one of the best Crucible hand cannons to ever come around. Craftable, so if you want to get 1 or 2 for crafting, I'd recommend it. However, this roll is very garbage. Then for Disparity as well, it's a pretty solid all-arounder roll for both Crucible and PvP because you have perks that can go both ways. Both Stability, both Frenzy, but like I said, and the many times this has been in the store, it is craftable. It is essentially Sacred Providence or Blast Furnace discount. However, obviously Blast Furnace is the game, so this one might be overshadowed now. Same with Code Duello. It was the first of the Lasting Impression rocket launchers, but however, it is still quite old to the point where it has been overshadowed by a lot of other better combinations. I'd say this is probably one of the best rolls it can get among others. And wrapping it all out, we have a personal favorite shader of mine, Valkyrie Zero, which you can see in a lot of the armor, there is a dark black with a dark blood red. However, one of the big fallbacks is the fact that there is very much a loud Soviet orange that happens in random places in the armor, and the glow is a light blue here. So it's a personal favorite, but the armor it has to go on is very specific, so it's not brightly loud. As well, we have New Pacific Sync, which is another one of those shaders that was meant to go for those roaming about Titan back when it was an available patrol area. So yeah, if you want to look a little bit aquatic, there you go. As well, we have new War Cult Rain, or War Cult Rain, which is one of those ones that looks very new future War Cult, but doesn't look very loud while still being very loud somehow. But with that, that is everything in the reset. I know it might have sounded a little bit weird. I had 1 or 2 points that had to dart back and forth. I needed to make sure the important information was well known, but while also still getting all the appropriate information across. With that, my name is TheMadScorpyon. I will see you in the next video.